Okay, we'll make a right onto Bates Street.
Okay.
And we can park up here at the corner of Kennedy Park, right in the middle of downtown Lewiston, Maine.
This is as good a spot as any to begin our search.
Okay, what are we looking for?
We're looking for an old house, a tenement house.
Ah, okay, there's a ton of those kind of houses around here. Many of them look like they could be multifamily units. How do we know which one?
Ray, we're looking for a home with a shaking door. We're in Lewiston, Maine, searching for a house they say is ridden with ghosts. Hello, I'm Jeff Belanger, and welcome to episode 276 of the New England Legends podcast.
And I'm Ray Auger. Thanks for joining us on our mission to chronicle every legend in New England one story at a time. We can't do what we do without you. So please hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcast, and please post a review for us. Tell a friend or two as well. That's how we grow.
Before we go searching for a Lewiston house filled with ghosts, including a creepy and sinister character, we want to take just a minute to tell you about our sponsor, New Auger Herbals.
Jeff, the holidays are here.
They are.
And like last year, I'm getting those orders in early because I don't need any more stress this month.
Right.
If you're looking for a unique gift, something healthy, something handmade that you can't find in every store, look no further than New Auger Herbals.
New Auger Herbals offers a huge selection of teas, balms, essential oils, and soaps, all made by hand with all natural ingredients. Their teas come in these bronze resealable bags that look like they could be a holiday gift already. You don't even have to wrap it.
And we're lazy, so that helps a lot.
So true.
Now, we've had a great partnership with New Auger Herbals over the years. It's been amazing to watch the both of us grow together. They're landing a bunch of new customers who heard about them through our podcast, and they've helped us continue to grow and expand. Please support the people who are supporting us.
And we can finally talk about their Christmas tea.
Woo.
Let New Auger Herbals help support your healthy lifestyle. Check out the New Auger Herbals website to see all of their great products, and you get 20% off your order when you use the promo code LEGENDS20 at checkout. Please don't forget to use it. Visit newaugerherbals.com. That's Nuwati herbals with an S.com.
All right, Jeff, so we're looking for a haunted house in Lewiston, Maine?
That we are, and there are a lot of houses here in the downtown area.
Yes, there are. This area of Lewiston was originally home to the Abenaki and Androscoggin people.
And I'm guessing that's where we get the name of the Androscoggin River that
yes.
borders the western part of Lewiston today.
It is. European settlers came here in 1770, and their town incorporated in 1795. There's still a few of those original settler houses that survive to this day.
Very cool. But those aren't the houses we're interested in finding right now.
Given the nearby river, Lewiston grew up on water power. Various textile mills used the river to power their businesses. Today, the population sits at about 37,000 people.
Okay, got it. So not the largest town around, but not tiny either. Now, to find the haunted house we're looking for, we're going to have to stroll these side streets and head back to 1894 and grab a newspaper.
It's December 22nd of 1894, and the Sun-Journal newspaper out of Lewiston has just put out its Saturday edition.
People should be thinking about the upcoming Christmas holiday, but there's an article right on page 9 that has folks around here a little spooked. Check out this headline, Ray.
Okay, it reads, Spook Ridden, a Lewiston house about which queer stories are told. The man who carries his head on one side and other strange happenings.
Spooky, right?
It is.
The reporters offered to get us inside, but he swore us to secrecy on the location. So, shh.
Sure.
The house isn't far. Okay, I heard from the reporter that there's a lot of turnover in this building. Residents come and go quite a bit.
Do you think the ghosts scare them off?
Maybe, or maybe that's just the nature of this tenement. People don't plan to stay long. But the most curious part is that the reporter mentioned how even though the tenants come and go, they share similar stories about the ghosts here. And these accounts go back many years inside the building.
One tenant told me that they've seen a tall, dark-looking man moving through the house at night. He's almost like a shadow, but he carries his head to one side, almost like his neck has been broken. The angle of the neck is, well, it's unnatural.
Here in the upper floor of the house, one tenant said she saw a shade of a woman entering her room at night and sitting on the bed. And it's always this room, too. Other people have slept in here and experienced the same thing. a shadowy woman who glides into the room and settles on the bed. You can feel her weight press down and yet see right through her.
Let's talk to more of the tenants. I have a feeling this could be a long night.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Another tenant told me that 3 years ago, an older gentleman moved into the house from a neighboring city. Now, the old man knew nothing of the ghostly activity here. And shortly after he moved into the house, he got ill.
Do you think the house made him sick?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe it was just bad luck. So one day, a neighbor comes over to check on him and was told that during the night, a strange-looking man paid a sinister visit. The man was described as tall and dark and carrying his head at a peculiar angle to the side, almost like his neck was broken. Now, the sick older gentleman said this peculiar shadow man carried a coffin into the room and set it on the floor near his bed. The shadow man then moved the coffin to various spots around the room, almost like the way someone sizes up when you move furniture around. Now, this continued for close to an hour before it stopped. A few days later, the older gentleman died in his room.
Oh, that's so eerie. So get this. Another neighbor told me that a little boy once lived here with his parents. One day, the little boy got very sick, and he started seeing the tall shadow man with the broken neck moving from room to room within the house. The boy's mother thought that maybe he was having fever hallucinations.
Sure.
But when other neighbors told her the story, she wasn't too sure.
It almost sounds like this broken neck man could be some kind of harbinger, like seeing him as a bad omen.
But the little boy didn't die. He did make a recovery.
A local Lewiston woman told our reporter friend that she used to live here when she was a young girl. She said she does not believe in ghosts, but her mother told her that when she was young, she would sit up in her trundle bed and point at something in the room. She told her mother there's a man with his head to one side looking at her.
All of the nearby neighbors seemed to know something about this house's ghostly activity. I just spoke to a policeman who said years ago this house sat vacant for a while. He'd walk by on patrol, and one night he saw lights flickering in the attic, so he went inside to investigate. He found all the rooms were empty, but there was a foul odor that hung in the air. When the policeman reached the attic, there was no light on, and the room was empty. Once the officer got back outside and locked up the house, the light started flickering in the attic once again.
Some things can't be explained, like why everyone in this Lewiston neighborhood seems to know this house is haunted. You know, unless it really is haunted. And that brings us back to today.
Okay, I have questions.
Me too. Now, before we get to that, let me just say that everything we know about this story comes from the December 22nd, 1894 Sun Journal newspaper from Lewiston, Maine. It's our only source on this one. Okay, questions.
All right, if this story is for real, why not give the address of the house? Isn't that suspect?
It is. So go ahead and read this part of the article.
All right, it says, quote, why not locate the house, you ask? Well, if you own the house and were trying to rent it, you wouldn't want it advertised as such.
So that's the reason the reporter gave. Now, it could be a cop-out for sure, but read the paragraph after that one too.
All right, this one says, quote, a well-known lady, one who knows much of the world, told us that very early the other morning she saw the front door of the house shake violently 3 times. No one was there. In a minute or two, the lady of the house came to the door in her wrapper, as though she'd just arisen from bed, and peering out and seeing no one, went back to bed.
So I guess the article implies that if you're near the house, you may just figure out which one it is by the shaking door. But that was back in 1894. In truth, we don't know which house this was, or if it's still standing today. But we couldn't resist a headline that starts with, Spook Ridden.
No, we can't. And that brings us to After the Legend, which is sponsored by our Patreon patrons. Our patrons get early access to new episodes, plus bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. We depend on our patrons to help with our hosting, production, marketing, and all those other costs associated with creating this show each and every week. We appreciate this amazing group of insiders. If you can help the cause, please head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up.
Okay, Ray, as a journalist, I've chased many stories, and one of the questions that I've come up with as just an observer is, why do you talk about one building but not another, right? Old historic town, everybody says this building's haunted. The one next to it that's just as old,
right.
No one talks about it. Now, I'm willing to give this reporter the benefit of the doubt. And by the way, reporter, there's no byline on the article. It's just the article. And maybe he or she heard strange stories that kept coming up about this one house. and did the story. Now, not putting any names in it either is another suspect thing. But of course, the reporter would say, well, that would tell you where they live, and then you'd know the house. But yeah, I get it. Then maybe it's just, a slow news day, but it was right before Christmas. It's not like they did this in October.
Right. And it sounds like a campfire story, doesn't it? From camp,
a little
when
bit.
You were a kid.
Yeah.
Like we heard the one about the guy with no arm. Was that the one it was? Or he had a hook for an arm or something?
The hook. That's a good
it wasn't the car one, though, but he wanted his golden arm. That's the one we used to tell. And it was always the town next to wherever we were.
Sure.
Do you know this just happened? My cousin lives in that town.
Yeah, next town over.
It sounds like one of those kind of stories.
Not this town, because you might know it.
Right, exactly.
Right. Right.
And there's no people mentioned in this, so it is one of those folk tales.
It's vague.
Yeah, or a cautionary tale, perhaps.
Well, so you wonder too, like the broken neck man, like that's the thing that comes up, that his head was cocked to one side, and so then you start asking, well, did he hang himself in this house, or did he have some horrible fall,
right?
And now haunts the house forever. And
so his parents telling kids, don't go play in that house because you could end up like the broken neck man.
The broken neck man. So I wonder, here's my hope as our podcast gets more popular. We've passed 4.5 million downloads now, by the way.
That's a lot.
That's not bad.
I can't count that high.
I know.
That's how big it is.
Yeah. So my hope, right? Maybe someone in Lewiston, Maine is listening and they live in a multifamily and it's old and they go, hey, wait a minute. This place is haunted. I wonder if this is the house they were talking about in the article.
I had a girlfriend that lived up there.
Really? In Lewiston?
I don't know if she's still there.
Wow.
I can't call on her. She won't talk to me. I just thought I'd let you know.
Part of me, and I'm sure a lot of people out there right now are going, what happened?
You don't know. Nobody needs to know that.
Wow. Now we really want to know what happened. And if you subscribe to the
legend.
extra, if you subscribe to the to the Patreon extra,
story.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. That'll be the bait to get them over. So so many stories that we work on. I search the newspaper archives.
Yeah.
And there's certain keywords you look for, and you get good at it over time. But this one, I was like, like it's just I kept coming back to it.
You were amazed by this story.
Well, it's just when you've got like ghosts and haunts in the headline, like I gotta read it. I can't help it,
right?
And it's
but you would expect more. I mean, because it's such an interesting story. There has to be a follow up somewhere.
And it's what's incredible to me is how the press back then treated the subject pretty similarly to the way they do now. There's some people that take it seriously and they say like, okay, here's the name, here's the address, here's what this person said. We did a house in Gloucester. Remember the house on Gould Street? Oh, yeah. Which was one of those, they gave the street, which is a tiny little street, right? They gave names and so on. And you go, oh, I mean, so it just, that's more valid to me.
Right.
This one, no names, no location, just a house in town. But the reason I thought it was sort of interesting was that it was December 22nd. And if you were going to
close to Christmas,
you would, like that article they could have sat on it for weeks.
Sure,
it didn't have to come out.
There must have been something going on in town, some kind of charity event or food drive that they could have talked about for the holidays.
And not a big article either, right?
Yeah.
Just one column. And I thought, so the only thing that added validity to me was the timeliness of it. Was that if this was like October 28th, I'd say, all right, they were sort of playing up to Halloween, and we could mostly dismiss this. And hey, by the way, you might dismiss this one anyway. However, the date I thought was sort of peculiar, and and there was a cool little illustration that we'll put on our website of the drawing of the ghost.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a drawing that you or I could do, and we're not that good,
right.
But it doesn't matter, but the broke neck man I thought was unique, and then I started thinking about like harbinger, signs and ghosts and things like that.
Yeah.
That when you see something that, the banshee, right? The Irish banshee. When you hear the cry of the banshee, someone's going to die.
Right.
Or,
when you see the broke neck man, someone's going to die.
Mothman in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, right? So there was this sighting of this birdman, and then the bridge collapsed and people died. And there may be no connection at all between the two events. Right. But someone looked at it and said, oh, he was a harbinger. He was a warning that something bad was going to happen.
If you'd like to learn more about that, I believe it was Kevin Costner that was in the movie.
Oh, right. The Mothman prophecy.
That's it. I think it was Kevin Costner.
You might be right. Yeah.
But when you mentioned the bridge and the Mothman, I'm like, oh, yeah.
The Mothman prophecy. Yeah.
It's a good movie.
It was a book, too, originally. Was it? Yeah.
No,
books are these things with words.
I don't read it.
Never mind.
Movies are so much better.
It's like a podcast that, never mind. You just read it. But yeah, so I sort of couldn't resist. And, I was sort of looking around Maine for different stories, and that just kept coming back to that article, and I was like, oh, do we do it? But then we just got to be full disclosure.
Yeah.
And here it is.
Well, it's a cool ghost too. And we don't hear too many ghosts that are like their neck is hanging weird. It's usually a missing limb, a missing head even, but not like a broken neck.
And moving a coffin around a room.
That's weird too.
For an hour.
Yeah, just looking for the right spot.
You're in bed, you're asleep, and you wake up and some guy's moving a coffin around the room.
And you're like, will you just find a spot so I can go back to bed?
Right, something. Like, dude, do I get in that? Do you get in it?
Yeah.
Right? Something. Yeah. But this has been an hour.
Give me a sign, please.
Yeah.
Well, the sign was the ghost in the coffin, but...
And just moving it around, which is just so creepy.
Yeah.
I love that. With the broken neck.
There's an hour. There's a movie right there. I mean, you can kill an
see.
hour with the moving of the coffin. That's easy to write.
I know.
It writes
It's
itself.
like a James Cameron movie. Like, that'll just be one scene for 1 hour. And you're like, I'm not a professional movie editor, but I could easily cut an hour out of any James Cameron movie ever.
3 hours is excessive.
They're
I think
all
the
3
new
hours.
Avatar is probably 4.
I'm out. Like, I just, because I know, I mean, I remember watching the first Avatar and I was like, oh, I'm not an editor, but I'm like, this was like 6 minutes. It could have been 2.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, oh, this scene was.
Hey, the man's an artist.
What
can I tell you.
And he makes more money than both of us
I know,
will ever
right? That's
see
the
in our
thing.
life. And good for him. And I know people love his work, and that's great. I'm just saying it runs a little long sometimes. But here we are. We've done a nice, short, tight podcast.
That's right. You can't claim that we're James Cameron-ish.
Oh, James Cameron. You know what?
From time to time.
There's no way he's listening to this. It's too short.
Right.
We won't even offend him. He'll be like, oh, you're kidding? How can it be good if it's less than 3 hours?
You know, Joe Rogan's podcast is like 2.5 hours sometimes.
Who's got the time?
Well, people do, but still.
Joe does. Joe has the time.
A lot of time.
Again, he makes more money than both of
That's
us
right.
will ever see. We're tight. We got to keep it moving here.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how we do it, for sure.
Did you know that most of our story leads come from you? Well, it's true. If you've got a strange tale from your neck of the woods, I said neck.
Yeah,
right?
broken neck, yeah.
There you go. Don't assume that we've heard it. Please reach out to us anytime through our website or our super secret New England Legends Facebook group. We love when you get involved. Also, be sure to tell a friend or two about the show and share the episodes on your social media. That's how we grow.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, New Audi Herbals. Thank you so much to our Patreon patrons. And our theme music is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember,
The bazaar is closer than you think.